I missed out on an opportunity to make millions of dollars. In this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what happened, what I did wrong, and what I think I'm going to change in the future to make sure I don't do this again. So stay tuned. In 2016, I got my first software engineering job and I was earning around £21,000 a year. So not a huge amount. And my goal was to earn more money. In software, lots of new technologies come and go. At the time, a new technology called React had just come out, and I wanted to learn this because I saw that learning this, I could probably get a higher paid job. And to do this, I started making online video tutorials about React. My thinking was that by teaching it, I can also learn it at the same time and get really good. And I was pretty successful at this. I made this online course and I started making money. In fact, I made around $12,000 from this course. Here's where my biggest regret comes in and the biggest failure starts. I did something incredibly stupid. I stopped and I got lazy. I stopped making videos. Today, the people that started at the same time as me and kept going are now millionaires. They make six figures monthly, not yearly. And I'm going to show you this data. I'm going to show you what I made. I'm going to show you what they made. And you'll see why this was such a big failure on my part. I taught on a platform called Udemy, and you can see here that I made around $12,000 from this course. I had around 6,000 students, which makes $2 per student. But actually it's a lot more because I gave around probably 4,000 students free access to my course in order to get some traction and get reviews. So if you take that number, really conservative number of $2 per student, let's take a look at two creators who started at pretty much the same time as I did, doing exactly the same kind of content as I did. You can see here that one of them has 3 million students now, and the other one has like 1.4 million students. And all you need to do is just double that, and then you probably get the dollar amount that they've made from those courses just on the Udemy platform. And it's going to be a lot more in reality because these creators are now partners with Udemy. They also have YouTube channels on their own platforms where they sell their courses for a much higher amount. So you can see here that I really messed up by giving up here, and frankly, I'm quite embarrassed, and as I said, it's my biggest failure. So the reason I wanted to share this with you is because I think certainly on YouTube and social media, we see all the successes that people have in business, and you see all these people making hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars a week, a month, driving their Lambos on YouTube. Now, the reality is that I had the exact same opportunity. I was there at the exact right time. I had the exact right skill set. And ultimately, the one thing that I did different to those other creators was I gave up. Obviously, my success would not be guaranteed, so you have to take it with a little bit of pinch of salt. Maybe I wouldn't have been as successful as those two creators, but as I said, we started at the same time, and you can see their trajectory, and you can see what I went on as well, and how much I potentially missed out on. So why did I give up then? If I take a look back at myself in 2016, my mindset was very much of an employee. My goal was to get a new job to get a higher paycheck. And frankly, I succeeded with that. I went from £21,000 a year to around £30,000 a year. And the course was a big factor in that. It really got my foot in the door with CVs, given that I was still a fairly new engineer. Albeit £30,000 really wasn't that great of a salary for a software engineer, but for me, it was fantastic. And as I got that higher paid job, my mindset was really still an employee. I got the job, I then got a mortgage using that higher salary. The golden handcuffs were firmly in place at this point. Any money that came in from my salary just went on either the mortgage, Deliveroo and all that kind of frivolous spending. And ultimately I was living pretty much paycheck to paycheck until I started earning better money. And even then there was still so much lifestyle creep that when I was earning almost six figures, I was still spending a huge amount of money, and this really constrained me and really kept me in this kind of mindset of being an employee and not being able to take a risk and start my own thing or even do a side hustle. My general mindset was employee, I work, I get paid, I get the paycheck, I'm happy. And what followed was a decade of what I'm calling the salary trap. As my salary increased, my spending increased, I got a raise, I upgraded my lifestyle. I made more, I needed more. Had a higher income, I wanted more money, I wanted a better promotion. And frankly, as I said, the golden handcuffs got ever tighter with every single pay rise. And my mindset was very much, okay, this is me for the next 30 or 40 years. down this path, the corporate path. I got the degree, I got the job, I'm climbing the ladder. The future is pay rises, promotions, and then retirement. And realistically, the further down this path you get, the harder it is to step off and to try your own thing. One day I had a pretty horrible realization. I took a look at my numbers and I realized that with my spending, even with a decent income, a decent retirement was frankly just not on the cards. And that's with pay rises taken into account. So I did something that frankly I thought was absolutely impossible at the time. I entirely changed my lifestyle. I started tracking where I was spending my money and it was shocking. I started cutting out all that frivolous spending, so things like Deliveroo, which certainly added to the pounds here as well. I stopped trying to keep up with my peers who were getting nice cars, upgrading their houses and frankly spending all their money. And one of the big changes was that rather than spending, I started saving and investing. And ultimately that saving and investing has meant that I've got the opportunity to try my own thing for a couple of years and to try and be financially free. Let me be completely honest with you though, I'm not entirely financially free. I'm far from it. As I've said before, I've got enough money, enough runway for probably a couple of years if I am frugal. But for me, that risk is worth it because I think I can go get another job if I start running out of money. But I really wanted to take the opportunity to try and make my own thing, try and be my own boss, set my own lifestyle, and ultimately try and make a better living for myself than being an employee. Is what I've done risky? Absolutely. Do I recommend that you do it? Absolutely not. But as I've said, it's a risk that I'm taking and sharing the journey with you. So subscribe and you can follow along. See if I succeed. Here's what I've learned from a decade of playing it safe. Every sensible choice has a hidden cost. For me, it was missing out on the opportunity to keep making courses and potentially become a millionaire. Comfort can often be more dangerous than taking a risk. Being in a job, getting a good paycheck, it's comfortable. And that comfort can become quite dangerous. You get used to it. You kind of get soft and pudgy. Taking risks is risky, of course, but for me, I believe the personal growth, the skill growth, and the potential returns are worth that risk. I've also found that systems build freedom and salary builds dependence. Having worked at many companies and seen many entrepreneurs, really I found that systems will make it much more likely that you'll succeed. Whereas having the salary, it does really make you dependent on someone else and someone else's dream. And those handcuffs, as I've said, are quite difficult to get rid of. The difference between 2016 me and 2025 me isn't that I've got it all figured out. I don't. It's that I actually understand now. Sometimes the biggest risk is taking no risk at all. The safe path cost me 10 years of growth, multiple revenue streams, true financial independence, and control over my own time and my own life. Those successful creators, they made systems to generate their content, market, and grow their revenue, and engage with students. And those systems kept them going and kept them growing and ultimately have made them successful. While I was trading my hours for dollars, they were building systems that ultimately worked for them while they slept. And one thing I think is important to say as well, often your mortgage can become a mental prison. It certainly did for me. It became the excuse. I had to have that regular paycheck to pay my mortgage. Now, I'm not saying don't pay your mortgage, but the reality is that sometimes that big weight can have a lot of pressure and it can really force you down that kind of conventional path. So when I got lazy, I stopped recording videos, I stopped updating the course, stopped engaging with students, and I stopped marketing to students. When they got lazy, they had systems in place to make sure that even when they're lazy, they still got a program to record courses, they're still marketing to their students via automations, they're still growing their revenue by cross-selling across to new students, by promoting it on various social platforms, and ultimately growing their audience and growing their businesses. Your 9 to 5 that you think is really safe, the reality is that job probably isn't going to be there in 10 years. The steady paycheck, it might be holding you back from a lot of opportunity. For me, it certainly did, as you can see with my lost opportunity here. While you're trying to climb the corporate ladder like I was, ultimately other people are building their own ladders and are being successful. Talking a bit more about systems, let's really break it down and explain what I mean by systems. Systems ultimately do three things. Firstly, it produces results without your constant attention. Secondly, you can optimize and improve it over time. And third, it scales without you putting in more time. The core difference between the employee and the owner is that the owner can scale, whereas the employee can't find more hours in the day. I failed because I kept thinking like an employee. How can I get a bigger salary? And ultimately, I succeeded in that. They succeeded by thinking like business owners, thinking, how can I build something that works for me? And they've done that. You can see the results. Ultimately, this shift from the employee mindset to the business mindset is about thinking bigger. And I'm going to encourage you to think bigger. What do I mean by think bigger? Well, rather than thinking about how to increase your salary, think about how you can replace your entire salary with something else. Stop thinking about your boss's approval, trying to get that promotion or that extra responsibility to get ahead in the corporate ladder. Start thinking about becoming your own boss.